an update on Joey Bosa and the game's going to play on Sunday?
Yeah, Joey Bosa and Justin Jones are, I think we're going to list Joey as questionable and Justin is doubtful. They both have been working out with our training staff, and I think it's going to be, we're going to find out a lot more after today. So both of those guys are still up in the air, and then we're going to rule Chris Harris is out for this game.
How did Joey's ankle sort of respond through the week? Because I know you said on Monday it was just football stuff. Did it get worse at all? Did it respond in a way that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, it's responded well. It is football stuff. It's not anything serious or long term, but it's just one of those. I mean, it's sore for sure. It's definitely loosened up as the week's gone on. Today he did even more than he did yesterday, but we're just trying to be careful. And I think with him and Justin, those guys have both kind of earned the right to be closer to the game type decisions for us. But he's definitely improving for sure. Both guys are really improving.
For some coaches, if guys can't practice during the week, they just don't. They're basically out. But it sounds like with Joey, especially, he's a little more just given his status in the league, that you're maybe a little more willing to kind of let it go to the weekend here.
Yeah, Jeff, I think it's a really good question. I think it's a real case-by-case basis. I think no two players are the same, and I think he's certainly one of those players that I have full confidence in. And I would say the same thing for Justin Jones. And then those guys have played a lot of football in the league, and they've been awesome with the game plan. We've been able to get them out there in walkthroughs. I think the way we do things, the walkthroughs matter a lot for us. So that gives them a chance to maybe not practice during the week and then still have a chance to play in the ball game. So we'll see how it goes.
Brandon, also helps more that it's a common opponent, since it's a division opponent that he sees often. Where in a Dallas, it's a team you see once every 4 years.
I think that could probably be the case, Joe, maybe later in the season. I think that Kansas City, although Joey's played against them, their personnel is a lot different. I mean, the O-line that's been blocking him over the course of his career there is much different than it is now, and they basically have 5 new starters. So they still have a lot of the same pieces from skill position standpoint, but teams change a little bit year to year, and I think, with us, we really try and keep the focus on us. And I think that if he has full command over what we're doing, then we feel good about him being able to go play against whoever that team might be, because he has command of our game plan. That's the big thing, is like, hey, does he know what we're doing? And I feel like both those guys have been able to do that this week, and we'll just kind of see where their health is tomorrow before we leave.
Brandon, you talked before just about the gap and a half philosophy and the run fits among the defensive linemen. With that, how much of a learning curve is there with that specific philosophy?
It's a good question. I think that there are a lot of different ways to play in the NFL. If there was one way to play, we'd all be doing it. My belief system is to play really thick and physical on blocks, because I know that it has a real impact on what's behind you. So that style of play contributes to how we play behind the D-line from a coverage system standpoint. I think that there is an adjustment, because the scheme before, it is much different. They're an opposite of us. They're more of an attack, gap penetrate, type team. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve, just like there is with our secondary. If you're more of a man team and you play zone, or vice versa, there's always a little bit of an adjustment. I think that we're still in that process of unpacking a lot of those details of the fundamentals, and that's why I put all the things that you're talking about up front, really on me, to be able to teach it better, explain it better, put them through more scenarios, because I think if the more these guys play together and they play those techniques, the more that they're going to have command over them, because it's not an ability issue.
And last week you guys brought up Joe Gaziano as because Justin Jones didn't go. Is that another option this week if Justin can go, or would you guys like to take a look at maybe a Forrest Merrill or Braden?
Yeah. All those guys are competing. I think, Joe did a nice job in the game for us coming in. We feel like he gives us versatility. He does give us some pass rush in there, and he does have the ability to actually go on the edge if he had to, if we were ever to play some 4-down stuff. So all 3 of those guys are doing well. Forrest had kind of a little bit of a toe thing last week too, but all 3 of those guys are competing hard, and right now we kind of feel like Joe is that guy for us right now, but it's ongoing, and I'm glad we have all 3 of those guys.
To your point, Coach, about you teaching better, I mean, that's a lot speaks of you to kind of take that onus on yourself. But do you feel the players are responding as you like?
Oh, yeah.
And they're capable of kind of running the scheme?
Absolutely. I mean, our guys are all in, and that team that we just played is a really, really good offense, and all you had to do is take a look at their first game and who they played and the defense that they were playing against in that first game. And so I know the defense that we had last year when we played them, in our first game last year, how we played against them. We didn't have our best stuff. We didn't look like the same team that we looked like at the end of the year when we were the number one defense in the NFL. And so I felt like there were a lot of really good things in the game. Specifically, we held them to a really low point total. That team traditionally scores well into the 30s, and you hold them to 20, really 17. And so I felt like that was really outstanding. We were able to put a roof over the coverages for the most part and make it really tough on them. And then I felt like in the run game, there are a lot of good instances of good run defense. But against a good team, it takes just a couple off plays, including from me, where, hey, you unpack some yards that really you could have avoided by just playing together more and learning more, and those things won't happen as we go. And that's why I put the ownership on me, because we got to continue to put through these guys through all these paces. And when you're at the beginning of something, you're going to have some things like that. But our group is really fun to coach, and they improve every time they go out there. And I know that we got the right character guys to be coaching for sure. And then as it relates to the scheme, I think if you talk to our players, they feel more confident every single day because we get better at teaching it. And so I think we're going to keep getting better as we go.
When you say that it's really only 17 points, what does that mean?
Well, we just felt like, in the game that, that's a little bit more accurate reflection of how we played. 20 points, I know, is on the scoreboard, but we just kind of felt like if we were to play that team several times, that we would be able to live with that point total because that team is such a prolific team. And I felt like in that game, I felt like if we had finished that job in 2 minutes, we would have been really happy about our day. And I feel like our group on defense is really, it's a work in progress, but I feel like our guys, every time we go out there, they feel a lot more command of what we're doing. And I think, as we go this season, we're going to get used to playing together, and I think that you're going to see good things moving forward. We play a lot of tough teams offensively this year, and every year. There's a lot of really good offenses, so you got to get your feet in the ground playing against other people, seeing other styles, and I think that's where, when I say you get better as you go, the more you unpack the NFL, the better you get at playing against the NFL. So all these different styles that you're going to face is only going to help our team moving forward, because as a group, we're seeing stuff for the first time together.
But Brandon, just break it down a little more. When you're playing the two high safety look, what are kind of the keys to stopping the run yellow lighter box?
I think, guys, a lot of people make the lighter boxes. We play like a light box would be if you were playing with like limited people in the box, like against a one back, if you were in a 6-man box, if you were in a 2-back set with a 7-man box. We don't do that a lot. We play with an 8th defender that's included in the run fit. He just may be coming from farther than what people are used to, where normally when you see an 8-man front, you have 8 guys lined up there ready to stop the run. Okay, they're lined up that way. We play a lot of 8-man fronts. They're just coming from farther away. And what that does is gives us the illusion of disguise, and we can unpack different post-snap rotations as a result of it. So when people talk about lighter boxes, it may start out as a light box, but it's not ending up as a light box. And then there's some times where there's some games where you want to do that, where, hey, we really want to devote a lot of our resources to the passing game. And so it's obviously a balance of both. But in the runs that you guys saw from last Sunday, those were all good run structures, for us, that we just need to play better.
The early down efficiency on offense, just looking at some of the numbers, like you guys are like 28th in EPA per play on early downs. Do you chalk that up to having a game where you have 10 penalties and a lot of them are on early downs and you're behind the chains? Is it a combination between that and execution? Sort of what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think a lot of that is penalties, going backwards, because that EPA gets distorted when you take penalties into account. That's when you take a look at, some of our, play pass numbers or some of that gets affected by 2 plus 40-yard gains getting taken off, the line of scrimmage, and those would be, touchdowns, which also affects your EPA from a data standpoint. So, I mean, I know that we're moving the football. I know that we only punted one time last game. okay, in the entire game, okay? So, and we didn't punt very much in the first game. We were 14-19 on third down and set an NFL record over the last, several, years. So I'm really happy, Daniel, with how we're moving the football. I think that we're running the football better than I thought we would at this point. I really like how we've come together, and we need to continue to do that so we have balance in terms of the type of runs, in terms of the type of passes. I feel like we've had a lot of, I think we've, been in terms of the passing game, as you guys know, passing the ball first down gives you a much better chance of being successful. And I felt like we've been able to balance that too. And I feel like, what I see out there is a difficult offense to defend. And I think what we got to do is, from an operations standpoint, from a penalty standpoint, for sure, your point's really well taken. And then down in the red area, making sure that we finish drives with scores. And a lot of that has to do with, to your point, I think when we talk about first down efficiency, I think our first down efficiency in the red area is a more specific place for me that our focus has been on, for sure.
Butker just as much of a threat as Zerline, Brandon, because of his leg and range?
Yeah, I felt like I think that's a good point. I think coming into a game like this, an underrated part of this team has been their special teams over the course since Andy Reid's been there. When we played them in Denver 2019, I saw it live. This team can really run. They've organized their team to have a lot of team speed. And so they have really good returners, and they've had good specialists. And I think that when you unpack special teams, when you have good specialists and you have good returners, that usually is a very good place to start from a formula standpoint. And that their special teams coordinator, Dave Tobe, is an excellent coach. A lot of people have learned from him. He's been outstanding. I came from the Bears, and he was a big, fixture on those great Lovie Smith teams with Devin Hester and all those great special teams units that they had. So we've got full respect for this team. And like you mentioned, their specialists, are good players. So that's going to be a big part of the vertical field position in the football game.
Brandon, you've used in the past that you are a teacher. You think of yourself as a teacher when you are a head coach now. But how easy is it, or not easy, when you're putting emphasis on, tweaking those penalties and being more efficient in the red zone, to also focusing on the game plan, which is facing, a Chiefs that has a very high-powered offense? Yeah,
I think everything that you're doing as a coach it's always teaching and leading and competing. You're doing all three of those things. That's what to me the definition of a coach is a teacher, a leader, a competitor. And when you're talking about penalties, the teaching aspect comes from, okay, is this a technique issue? All right, is this something fundamental that's physical? Is this something fundamental from a scheme standpoint where, hey, your technique is affected by what you're supposed to do? And then, okay, how are they officiating the game? Okay, then maybe some of the penalties maybe that's a mechanics issue. Maybe it's more operational, like, hey, getting in and out of the huddle, making sure that we get set, like all that good stuff in terms of mechanics. Okay, is our play calls getting in on time? Are we communicating effectively enough within the huddle? Are we leaving too quickly? Or are we leaving too late? There's all these little things to unpack when it comes to teaching. And then I think that you got to show them other examples too from around the league, which is what I really enjoy, is being able to teach from whether it's past experiences where I've been throughout the league. Was it last night in the Thursday night game? There's so much that I think we all can learn from. And I think that the more that you can explain things to your players, the more clarity that they will have, and the more that they will be able to execute for you. And I think, through 2 weeks, I'm not, excited about where we are, but I know it's just a start. And I know that our process is good. And then now we've got to put that process into play and make it happen on the football field. And I think what's good about our football team right now, whether it's coaches or players or our staff, is that we know where we are right now, and we know where we need to go. And we've had a good week of practice so far, and that's all I can ask for.
Brandon, with it being two games, how's it gone for you being the play caller and obviously being the head coach, the defensive play caller, and obviously head coach?
I've loved it. I've loved every part of it. And I think that's something I was looking forward to, being a head coach, is being able to impact all three phases of the game and, the game management side of things. And so I think that you're always going to get better as you go. But I think from a communication standpoint, I've been proud of how we've communicated. Last game, I think, was a good test for us because there was a lot more happening in that game throughout the entire game. I felt like we made really good adjustments I felt like we made really good adjustments, specifically defensively in the second half, and played the way that I know that we can play. And I felt like there was some, good thing. There was a 2-point play decision. There was a 4th down decision. There was some, 2-minute end of half. We didn't want to give them the ball back right at the end of the half. And so, strategically, that's a really good offense. And we knew we were going to get the ball at the start of the second half. And we had that unfortunate penalty on the field goal. But I felt like I was proud of how we kind of unpacked that, despite some of those penalties on that last drive, which affected the end of the half. And so you're constantly going back, and you know that you can't call a perfect game. You know that. But what you can be proud of is what your intent was, and hey, are you good with how that unfolded? And then once it's over with, I think that we all learned, in every game, what you can go back and do better moving forward. And I think me being a brand new head coach, you got to learn quickly. And that's what I'm trying to do, is learn as fast as I can. And I think there's just going to be so many things that happen for me, but I know that I'm going to be ready for them.
Hey, Coach, you talked previously about how good number 10 is, and we've all seen that. But how difficult is it to kind of implement the running game and get a good running game going on continuously, knowing how good, what you can do with number 10 in the backfield?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Cam. And I think that you got to go into each game and you can't play every game the way you want to play it. You got to go into every game the way you need to play it, and that's different. And I think when you have Justin, you have a real luxury because there's so much that he's capable of. But I think when you go into each game plan, what may be best for Justin may not be what's best for the team, overall, depending on where we're at in the other 2 phases. What I think that the running game does for a quarterback is it gives you some breathers. And, you don't need a good running game to be a good play-action team, but what you need the running game for is the physical element of the game. There's a physicality to the game that's real, right? If you're just a passing team, okay, there's a physical element to the game that the defense doesn't have to respect, okay? And that's the truth. Okay, because the data will tell you don't need a run game to play pass. You don't need that. But what the running game does for you, it brings a physical dimension to the football game. And what the running game does that the passing game does not is the running game forces the defense to play blocks and to tackle. That happens on a run play. You must play blocks and you must tackle. In the passing game, those things don't have to happen, right? You don't have to play as many blocks, right? And you may not have to tackle based on incomplete or not. So what the running game does is it really challenges your physicality. And that's why I think the run game is important to a quarterback, is because it's going to allow him literally to have more space to operate when you do throw the football. Okay, it's not that you need the run game to throw it. It's just what it gives the rest of your skill players. And, there's the truth of the run game from point A to point B. That is a quick way to gain yards, right? It's from point A to point B. It's a direct line, right? To turn your back and hand the ball off, or from the shotgun, it's a more direct line. But I think with Justin, the great thing that you also have in the run game is you have a dual threat. You have a dual threat from the shotgun. You have a dual threat from under center, a guy that can, truly make you believe what's happening in the run game. And that's what I think we've been able to do a good job of through 2 games, is really make our runs look like passes, both in the shotgun and under center. And we're going to try to continue to make that a big part of our game moving forward.